Making difficult decisions is tough, man, whether it's in business or in life. And if you're filled with anxiety and stuck in analysis paralysis, it's a quick route to go nowhere fast, you feel me? So what can we do about this, and how can we make tough decisions without overwhelm? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack in today's video, but more specifically, my simple 5-step process for making tough decisions with ease. So hey, without further wait, let's get into it. For me, talking in absolutes is dangerous without context. Let me hit you with an example, okay? You hear a lot of people in today's world say, you need to wake up at 5 a.m. if you want to be successful. Or the only way to be healthy is by being a vegan. Or the only way to make real money is by being an entrepreneur. Do you see the problem with those three statements? I do. It lacks context. It really does. And when you unknowingly or knowingly buy into somebody else's narrative without figuring out your truth, it becomes seriously problematic because you can end up living a life of misalignment. And I don't want that for you. And hey, here's why I'm telling you this. Here's why I'm telling you this, people. In the next few minutes, I'm going to hit you with my 5-step personal process for making tough decisions. This process is not your truth. It's my truth. I would invite you to see this process as inspiration for finding your truth. Okay, I want you to interview this concept, meaning sit with it. Figure out, how does this sit with me and what does it mean for me, my energy, and the type of decisions I make on a day-to-day basis? You feel me? Because my goal is not to teach you what to think with a methodology, framework, or formula that's a one-size-fits-all. No, my goal is to teach you how to think with my ever-evolving process, hoping that inspires you to find your own. Back in the day, I found myself silencing my intuition and trying to think my way into making the perfect decision. And you can imagine how that story went. And what I found was that when I engaged in this behavior, I ended up in a state of overwhelm, analysis paralysis, but even worse, indecision. And for me, what I realized was that making a decision was better than being stuck in the gray and not making a decision. So for me, there's always 3 outcomes when making a decision. It's either a yes, a no, or a not now. And when I say not now, I mean parking that decision-making process, pushing it down the line to a different chapter of my story, allowing me to close that open mental tab, which is just draining my headspace. It's been helpful for me. Now, today, the way I think about it is recruiting both intellect and my intuition when making difficult decisions. Here's what I'm talking about. Okay, January or February-ish, Q1, let's call it Q1, 2023. My daughter was 4 or 5 months old, and I thought, you know what, man, this could be a great time to write my first book. And everybody around me was saying, hey, this makes sense. You've got a book in you. That's what everybody kept saying to me. So I thought, you know what? Let's begin that process of research. So I spoke to peers, publishers, different people inside of my industry who were in similar spaces, and everything on paper made sense. And truthfully, everything on paper felt like a no-brainer. Intellectually, it was a yes. But intuitively, as I went down the research journey, something felt off. In my gut, something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't say, oh, this is the reason why it feels off. I just knew that the book was a no in this chapter of my story. So here's what I did. I said not now. In hindsight, I said not now. I actually said no, but in hindsight, I said not now to the book. But I did remain 100% open to revisiting that decision-making process later on down the line. Now, fast forward to May 2024, and I'm on a call with my mentor, and we're mapping out my vision for the next 18 months. And the crazy thing happened, man. Everything just collapsed into alignment. It felt like a hell yes. Writing a book intuitively became a no-brainer. But when I looked at it from an intellectual perspective and started jotting down everything from a logical sense on paper, it was like, you sure, bro? Really? Are you sure? But it didn't matter. My intuition was screaming hell yes. So you know what? I said, I'm all in. And hey, as it stands, in 2025, I will be a published author. And here's why I'm telling you this. Okay. Self-trust is a scary and beautiful, beautiful thing. But if I had to think about all the different times in my life recently where I've made tough decisions, I've knowingly and unknowingly developed a simple 5-step process. Let me show you what it looks like. Step 1, I create the space for solitude so I can regulate my nervous system and make a decision without emotional charge. Meaning, if I'm in a state of just elation and joy and I'm on a high, I don't want to make a decision from that high. But also, if I'm feeling low, I also don't want to make a decision from that low point. I want to feel in a space of neutrality, if that's even a word. I want to feel neutral, is what I'm trying to say, okay? I need to approach this from a neutral perspective. And for me, regulating my nervous system through meditation, breath work, or cold water exposure is really helpful. Step 2, I ask myself the very question that is eating up at my mental headspace. Step 3, I observe my body for contraction or expansion, specifically my gut. That's what I mean by my body. For me, I always experience this in my gut, a contraction or an expansion. Step 4, I recruit my intuition and I start being open to receiving signals, okay? Really feeling that contraction, because if it's a contraction, my intuition is saying no. If it's an expansion, it's like, hold on, there's an abundant feeling about this. This could mean a hell yes. Now, if I do feel an expansion, I then move on to step 5, which is the final step, where I recruit intellect. And I say, okay, if I went down this road with making this decision, and if this is a hell yes, then what would it look like? What would it look like rationally and logically? Now, for me, here's how I see it. Here's my truth. Once again, this is my truth. It doesn't have to be your truth, man. This is my truth, okay? If my intuition is screaming hell yes and my intellect is hell no, I'm going to do it. If my intuition is screaming hell no, but my intellect is like, go on, Rav, do it, I'm not going to do it. Okay, I'm not going to do it. I've gone down that route before and it's just never been a good look for me. Now, the unicorn scenario is when my intuition and my intellect are aligned. They're both screaming hell yes. But in reality, that's not always the case. In reality, this process can be messy. In reality, this process is non-linear. In reality, this process may take several sittings. And in reality, this process may not work for you. But here's what I found. Making tough decisions doesn't mean that when you make the decision, it's easy. It just means that you know you've done it from a place of your truth. Having a personal process for making tough decisions has been a game changer, man, because as I told you, in a different season of my life, I silenced my intuition and tried to think my way into making the perfect decision, which didn't serve me well. It often led to misalignment, but today I like to recruit both my intuition and intellect. But I do lean on my intuition, right? I do lean on my intuition. That is my first responder. Now, what I've found is when most people have figured out that they need to make a certain decision, it often means they have to say no to somebody or something, which can lead to a ton of anxiety. Because how do you say no to somebody? And how do you do it with warmth? Well, if you are nodding your head right now, then your next destination is this video over here. Now, I don't know if it's here, if it's over here, it's somewhere up here, but basically this video is going to teach you how to say no with warmth and without being a people pleaser. So, hey, I'll see you on the other side. Peace.